started. Some of you have already joined us for some of the other trainings we've had, but this training is presented by Plan, and it is funded through the TSLAC grant for rural libraries and to provide training for them. But if you're not in the rural library, you're definitely still welcome to join us for this and any future events. And at the end of the training, I am going to put a link to do a post survey. So just hang on to get that link. I'm also going to send it out tomorrow as well. Anna, did you mean to say to share your screen? You might want to stop sharing. Oh, that's very recursive. Okay. Well, thank you. But yeah, this training is dynamic children's programming, and Alyssa has very graciously been willing to help us out with presenting on this. She's very knowledgeable about it. So I'm going to go ahead and let her take over from here.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thanks for inviting me to do this training. I will say this is the first one that I've ever done online like this. And I tend to talk with my hands, so if that's going to be distracting, sorry, everyone. Hopefully when I start sharing my screen, this will be less noticeable. But like Sarah said, my name is Alyssa Crow, and I am the South Branch Library Manager here in Abilene, Texas, at the location that's in the Mall of Abilene. So if any of you have been around or been to the library in the mall, that's mine. And when they asked me to do this one, Abilene's not a rural location, but we do have a lot of our rural community around us. We are the biggest library system in our general area. And South Branch Library, when I started, was in a 5,000 square foot building. That included bathroom storage and our staff area. So planning programs, hosting programs in such a small location is, it can be a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of difficulty. And then when I started in libraries, it was one of my first after school jobs. I was 16 at my tiny hometown library, which is in Wolfforth, Texas. If you guys don't know where that is, that's up in the Panhandle, right outside of Lubbock. And it was a very small library too. Like, we weren't even automated yet when I started. We still had the card catalog. We didn't go to an OPAC until I graduated high school. So I've got a little bit of experience planning for the small libraries, what that looks like, small budgets, as we all have. In a perfect world, it would be anything and everything, but we're, like everyone, dealing with what we've got. So I am going to start sharing my screen now, and we'll go into my presentation. I do tend to talk a little fast. If you guys have any questions as we're going along, feel free to write them in the chat. Sarah will interrupt me if necessary to either explain something or to go on to something else. There are several files that we'll be sending you guys after the presentation along with the recording. So if I mention, oh, you guys will get this later, it will be coming as a file. But if you would like more information about any of the things that I'm going to be talking about, you're always more than welcome to contact me or Sarah to get into contact with me for that. So, all right, I'm gonna start sharing my screen now. And we'll go from here. Hang on. I want my entire screen. And we'll open. All right, you guys seeing it? Okay. All right, so like I said, this is Dynamic Children's Programs, and my name is Alyssa Crow, and I have been working in libraries for about 20 years. So it's been a minute. A good decade of that was as a children's librarian, and around the last 5 years, I have been the manager at the South Branch, but I still enjoy the programming because that's what I like to do. So I still keep my hand in. So, okay. So dynamic, when we define dynamic and how that applies to what we're doing and why we're doing it, if we're talking about a process or a system, that's characterized by constant change, activity, or progress, right? We want dynamic. We don't want static. We don't want the same thing every single time. But if we're talking about a person, it's a dynamic person is positive in attitude and full of energy and new ideas. And as this applies to libraries and library programming, what we want is both of them, right? We want continuous improvement, not necessarily constant change, something different every time, but working towards a new and either improved version or a different way of servicing our community, but again, full of energy and new ideas, because if your programs aren't being described as one of these things, then there is some opportunity for growth, for some improvement. So we want them, our programs, we want the people who come to our programs to think they're interactive and fun, engaging, entertaining, exciting, as well as being informative. So that's kind of how I approach the programming at my library specifically, and how I hope everyone approaches their programming. So in my experience, there are only two types of programs. And I know you may be thinking, but there's kids, teens, adults, there's all these things that you do. And yes, but there's really only two. Programs that go well, right? Where you got a lot of engagement, you've got a lot of attendance, you're enjoying what you're doing, everyone's having a good time. And then the programs that don't, for whatever reason. It could be the time of day, something else that's happening. Maybe the topic is not something that a lot of your community is interested in, but these are really the two types of programs, ones that work and ones that don't. And how you approach your programming will hopefully lead more towards the programs that go well. And the ones that don't, that's just, again, an opportunity to figure out why it's not. It could be, again, the time, the date, the topic, something else going on in the community, especially for rural communities where there's a lot of other things happening around, like there's, football schedules, there's after school things, there's, planting season, it's harvest. There's really a lot that could affect attendance and programming, or even programming in general. So, and when we're talking about planning your programs, that's where the dynamic part starts, because it's not just the presentation, it's planning your program well. Usually the rest of it falls into place. So when you're planning, so there's 4 important things to consider: your purpose, the logistics of your program, the elements, and the structure. Now, this is probably nothing new to all of you. I've been working in libraries and know these things, but kind of glossing over some of them leads to, oh, I forgot that, or hang on, let me go get this in the middle of your program. So your logistics, the where it's going to be, the how you're going to do it, your time, the length of your program, what age it's aimed at, the structure, what your timeline of your program looks like. But the most important of all of these planning considerations, in my opinion, but I have found, is the purpose, the why. Because if you answer the question of why do you have story time with because we're supposed to have story time, or because we've always had story time, or that's what we do, you've kind of missed the points. So yes, the library does that, but why? And I'm going to talk about this book. It's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and it is one of my favorite books. It is an excellent book about leadership and about how why you do what you do affects who you do it for, right? So the why is the most important, because everyone knows what library does, right? And everyone knows how we, do what we do, but why do you do what you do, and what's the purpose of what you do? Simon Sinek calls this the golden circle. And if you haven't read this book, I do really encourage you to read it. It's very good. If you don't want to read the book, there is a TED Talk that Simon Sinek does about it as well, and those will be linked to the presentation as well as the information that we send after. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my why, because that informs why I do what I do in the library. Every single thing that I do in the library, whether it's from programming to customer service, to dealing with my administration, the city of Abilene at large. This is why I do what I do. So my why. So our first example here. I started with the Abilene Public Library in 2006, and as the children's librarian. So this is me doing a story time, a family fun story time. It's in the evening, or this particular one was in the evening. And I am reading this book in my hand right now. It's called Press Here by Hervé Toulet. And it is one of my absolute all-time favorite books. I read it at story time very regularly. I have used it in trainings with kids, teens, and adults even. I have used this book because it's brilliant. And if you haven't read it, read it. If your library doesn't have it, your library needs it. I can't tell you how much I love this book. It's great. But during this program, as I'm reading this book, the little kid there in blue with the red hair, his name is Luke. And this picture was taken in 2013. Every time I am turning this page, Luke's face just lights up every single time I turn the page. And he is enjoying it as much as I am enjoying reading it. And then as we get to the end of this book, right, every time we go, the only words he has to say is, "This book is magic." That is a direct quote. Every single time I turn the page, like he's looking at his parents. "Oh my gosh, this is the greatest book. This book is magic," right? And the look on my face is, "I know," because it is magic. And that is where I realized that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a good time. The kids are having a good time because I'm having a good time. And I want every kid who comes to a program at the library to think, this book is magic, right? That's my why. An experience they're having in the library that leads them, right, to love books, to love reading. That's why I do what I do. So this example is pretty old, or towards the beginning of my career, I should say. I had a recent example. So here's my second why, as just a confirmation that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, so this is the Salmon family. This is Ben and his two adorable daughters, twin girls, and they moved to Abilene around 5 years ago. And then Ben was a business owner here in town that we did some collaborative programs with. His business was in the Mall of Abilene. So he brought his kiddos to the library most of the time. And then when we had programs, his kids were there too. So he enjoyed libraries, his girls enjoyed libraries, and I enjoy libraries, and we all enjoyed them together. Now, they moved away from Abilene last year at the end of school. And earlier this year, this picture Ben posted on Facebook, and I commented saying, "You guys look great. Those shoes, it's amazing how tall the girls are." And then Ben replied, I said, "I kid you not, we talked about you at dinner. We were talking about the things we missed in Abilene, and the mall and the library came up, and all our trips to see Miss Alyssa. We kept talking about the Halloween night where they had to touch brains and we're dying laughing, but legit talked about you specifically tonight," right? These girls have been gone for almost a full year at this point, right? They've been in another town. They've been doing other things. Their family has gotten larger, but they were still talking about when they came to the library. And I was thinking, when did we touch brains at the library? And then as I was going back through my pictures, that's when we touched brains this Halloween, which was, I guess, a couple of years after they moved. Well, maybe it's just a year after they moved to Abilene. But maybe, do I have a picture of them touching the brains? Yes, I do. There they are. They're dressed as minions and they're adorable. So here are these girls who remembered a library program, an experience they had at the library, and loved it so much that it became a part of them, right? That is why I do what I do, right? That everyone who comes to the library has an experience. So as you're thinking about programming, right, how does your why inform what you do? right? You're going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy it. So why children's programming, right? What do we expect to get out of it? What do we want to do? We want to attract the children and their adults to the library and make them want to come back, right? We're creating relationships between children in the library, but also children in books and children and librarians, modeling how the sharing of books is an excellent tool for community, which also allows the parents and caregivers to interact, especially if you're at a baby program, for example, that sometimes the only adult conversation a new parent receives is when they're around other new parents. But when you're a new parent, it's hard to get out and make those connections. And we want to relate books, reading, and the library to a positive experience to create those lifelong readers, those lifelong library users. We want to get kids excited about books and reading, adults too. It always kind of hurts me a little bit when your kids are like, I don't like to read. I don't like books. No, they just haven't found their book yet, right? And that's my goal, help them find their book. And then, of course, programming. In the program, we want to encourage the development and practice of those essential literacy skills, especially for the younger ones as they grow, right? The development and the practice of the skills. So now it's time to do some program planning in 10 easy steps. Now, 10 sounds like a lot, but you're already doing most of them. You're just probably not focusing on each one specifically, or you may not need to focus on every single step depending on the program. So we're going to do the first 5. These are the ones that most people usually focus on. The purpose, right? Making it specific, measurable, agreed upon, realistic time frame. You know, what is the purpose of the program that you're doing? To teach them something, to story time, to do a STEAM activity. What is the program for, right? Why are you doing it? What goals do you plan for the program to have? You want the kids to learn something after? Are they building something through the program that they can take home? Is it like a collaborative program between other groups? Is it, right, you know, what's the audience that you're aiming it at, the age group of your kids? Because your program for a 3-year-old is much different than your program for a 10-year-old. And the content, your activities, the time and location. Now, at a rural library, your location may be finite. Like you don't have all the space available. But if you want to do a large program or try to have a large program, what does that look like? Is there another location that you could use? Could your program be held outside? If you're at a city, is there like a community building that you could use, or a park? At the Abilene Public Library, to be quite honest, I use every part of my building, every space, every location that I possibly can. We do have 3 locations in Abilene. However, they are located within our city, so there's not a lot of outside space. So if I do an outside location, it will be at one of our public parks, which I can do as well. You know, what time of day? If it's during the summer, do you want to have a program at 2:00 in the afternoon? No, it's too hot for everybody. So it'll be either in the morning or the evening. So all these things are a part of your program planning before you even get into the presentation. So the other things that usually get a little bit less focus on, right, is your marketing, right? We do at the Abilene Public Library a press release. We usually do a flyer. There's a poster. We have our program guide. It's in our brochures. It's on our social media. Sometimes there's bookmarks. We try to get the information to as many people as possible in as many different ways as possible. But it doesn't have to be all of these things, right? If you don't have necessarily the budget for a flyer for every single program, that's okay. It doesn't have to. We also rely heavily on word of mouth. At one program, we promote the next program. So it's happening while the program is happening too. So another part of program planning are your supplies and your resources, what you have versus what you need versus what you can do. All, of course, this entire program planning process depends on your budget. At my library, me specifically, I tend to keep a lot of things, right? I collect a lot of things to use. Like I don't throw away scraps of things. They just go in the scrap box. You can ask your community if you're going to be doing like an art project that needs paper towel roll holders. You can ask your community to collect them for you and bring them in. There's ways to extend your budget so you're just expending it on the things you can't collect yourself or the things you can't make yourself. So budget is a really big topic for your program planning, but there are very many ways to work within your budget to still create a dynamic program that people enjoy and want to come and do again. And then the last two things for your program planning are collaboration and evaluation. So collaboration, that could be between you and your staff, or if you've got a volunteer coming in to help you with your program, but that could also be between you and your administration. Like if you're attached, to a school, or if you are like a part of your city whole system, like the Abilene Public Library is a department of the city of Abilene. So we do have to work with them too, but also that creates the opportunity for Abilene, for example, to host a program with the Parks and Rec department. And we usually do that. Abilene also has a zoo. I know it's really the only one in the area here, but we do programs there, and they also do programs at the library. So that is an opportunity to make a more dynamic program as well. And then evaluation. Evaluation is important so that we know people are liking the programs, they're understanding what's happening, they want to come back, they're giving us feedback, suggestions for other programming. Evaluation is just not my favorite part of programming. There's, good and bad evaluations, and ideally we want everyone to have a good time. But evaluation is very important so that you can see if you have met any of your goals, right? Your purpose. Did it really do what it was supposed to do as a part of your program planning? So all of this can take a little bit of time. Now, I have been doing story times, for example, for 17 years. I am very confident in my skills that I can go and pick 3 books off the shelf or have my radio and present an excellent story time, right? I'm confident in my skills to do that, having done it, 2-3 times a day, every day for the past 15 years. But if you're just new to these types of programming, or you're just getting started, having tangible tools to help you with the process is very helpful. And it was very helpful to me at first. And I created a couple of different forms. And here they are. And I will send these to you as well. This is also something that I give to my new staff in my children's department, in my adult services department when they're planning programs. And I will send these along with all of the things, so you'll have tangible copies of these. But as an example, the one on the left is an Excel document, and I have it separated by all of the things that I could possibly do at a story time. Books, songs, finger plays, flannel boards, crafts, activities, supplies. I like to have this entire page filled out so that I know what we're doing, what I'm planning to do, so that everything is in one spot. And when I am program planning these weekly programs, story time, for example, we have a Storytime shelf where all of the books are individually placed. So this is Storytime, this is Baby Steps, this is Toddler Time, this is Lapsit, so that they're all in one spot on the off chance that the person who planned the program is not the person who presents it. Someone may be sick, or I may have 2 programs happening at the same time, but this also gives whoever is presenting the program the opportunity to have all of the things together so that they're not scrambling to make sure that they have everything. So the one on the right is a Word document, and it's set up a little bit differently. It still has all of the things here, but includes for you to just fill it out. I like Excel personally. That is what I prefer when I'm planning, because I have the opportunity to adjust the form however I want it to. I can do the same thing in Word, but I just prefer Excel, and that's my preference. But you guys will get both of these. The one on the right, the Word document, has some different ones, and we tend lately, I've updated this one to include a literacy tip that we're putting inside all our programming, especially for the younger ones, as a focus. When we just redid, why are we doing story time? What do we want them to learn? Well, we want to draw attention to the literacy skills that we are either demonstrating or focusing on for both the parents to learn and for the kids to learn. And it's the programs grow on each other. So they've learned this tip, and then we'll either work on it and focus on a different one at the next time. Sometimes they're weekly, sometimes they're monthly. It depends on the age of the program, or the age the program is focused on. Okay, so me personally, I like as planned in advance as possible. For our social media, for our actual print media, deadlines for publicity requests and things, it's at least a month. So we have to have the programs planned a month in advance so we can get our program guides out, we can get the event posts on our Facebook and Instagram pages. But I like, and have my staff do, create at least 3 months of programming at a time so that we're not scrambling for, oh, the next month, oh, the next month. So I do a spring, a summer, and a fall program guide. And this is just a checklist that I tend to go through. Depending on the program, I won't need a lot of these things, like regular story time. I don't have to plan those 3 months in advance. Usually it's a week in advance when I'm doing that. But if your program is larger, or if you're bringing in a person to present your program, then there are some other things that need to be taken into effect, like making sure all your stuff's together and all of your supplies and things are ready to create all your necessary documents. If you're having someone come in, what does that look like for your location? Like, are they volunteer? Are you paying them? Do they have to sign any sort of form saying that they're going to be working at your library or presenting for you, whatever? Confirm your presenters, right? Confirm any of your AV needs, if they're going to be using a PowerPoint, for example, or if there's a video they're going to be playing. Check your setup, greet everyone before your program. If you're having a presenter, ideally they're there before everyone else comes to your program. But you want to make sure you greet everyone, be pleasant. And then while your program happens, make sure you're keeping track of everything if you're not the one doing it. And then after, of course, you're cleaning up. You're making sure you get all the statistics, the who was there, the what you did, the how long it took you, all of that, and then evaluate your program. So I like to do a self-evaluation, right? So you can do an evaluation of your own program and then ask your attendees to do an evaluation of your program. If you're doing it for littles, obviously, it's really hard to ask a 2-year-old if they liked it or not. But you can ask the parents, hey, did you have a good time? Did you learn something? Are you planning to bring your kiddo back as a part of your program? So it's just a checklist. And as you continue doing it, you kind of do all these things just automatically. But if you need, again, a tangible tool, this is an excellent way to do that. So I'm going to talk about some of the specific programs at the Abilene Public Library. We have weekly, monthly, and some special programming. Our weekly programs are story times. And then I've got them listed here: baby steps, toddler time, regular story time. Those are your general everyday programs that we have at the library. They're pretty standard, honestly, between libraries as something that we offer. Our most heavily attended program for the weekly events is Wiggles and Giggles. Wiggles and Giggles is not actually a story time. Wiggles and Giggles is 30 minutes of not being still. We've got songs, we've got activities, we're dancing, we're jumping around. I've got scarves and teddy bears and bubbles at the end. And it's not story time, but that is our most heavily attended weekly program, Wiggles and Giggles. During the summer, we add a second half of Wiggles and Giggles, music and movement, and that's for our older kiddos, the ones that are in school. And they honestly enjoy it just as much as these littles at Wiggles and Giggles. That's more the preschool age. Our monthly programs, Consists of some clubs. We've got coloring club, Lego club, chess club that we have available at the library. They just come in and participate in the clubs, and then they either play together. We have Legos that they build with, and then we put them in our display case so they can come and see them every time. They don't just build, break it down, and go home. They build. It becomes a part of the library display. They come visit it, and then at the end of the month, when we're ready for the next Lego club meeting, then we unbuild and it starts all over again. Kids really enjoy that part of it all, coming in to see, look, Mom, that one's mine. And then our regular monthly ones, we've got Family Fun, Story Time, and Super Story Time. Our Family Fun is an evening event that families can come to. It's just regular story time, but it includes like a craft or a different activity. Super Story Time is the same thing for families, but during the day that's different from our regular story time schedule. And then we also show movies, and we have games that they can come in and play, board games, regular games. Now our special programs, these don't happen with regularity, like they're not every month. They may be every other month or every quarter, only during summer, that kind of thing. So there's Crafty You, which is for our tweens and up, where they come and make a craft at the library. We instruct them how to do it, give them all the supplies. Our South STEAM program, specific STEAM programs happen at all the locations, but we have specific South STEAM, which is one STEAM activity depending on the month and what I'm interested in, because I plan those. And there's, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So it's usually in one of the disciplines, and then I start over back at S as we go through. And that activity is available all day. So our other locations have like a STEAM specific program that they come in from 1 to 2, for example, do whatever it is, and then they go home. My STEAM activities at South last all day. So it's out entirely. They work on it at their own pace. Sometimes it's a packet that they can get and take home. They can either do at the library or do it at home. There's really no wrong way to do that. I tend to not do the messy ones inside the library. We do messy STEAM programs during summer, usually outside the library at the park. There's a video in a little bit that we'll watch. But there's some other things. We've got our Stuffy Sleepover, which we just had the first one of, and it went very, very well. So we're going to be having another one probably in December. And our mini art exhibit, we started that during COVID, and we sent tiny 3x3 size, that's Post-it note size, art canvases home. And they decorated them at home, painted whatever they wanted to do to them, brought them back to the library, and then we're displaying them for everyone during October, which is National Arts and Humanities Month, as a community exhibit. So let's see. Whoop, there we go.
Oh, wait, Alyssa?
Yes.
We have a question in the chat. Will you send what your quarterly guide looks like, and how did you get to that point?
Absolutely. I will send those out. We also have those available on our website, the previous ones, if you want to see, but I will send examples. And it's a monthly guide. We tried to do quarterly, but then we had a few programs that changed, so we were having to reprint those a lot. So we just do a monthly. But with our 3 locations, each location having its own programming schedule and guide, it got to be a lot that we were passing out to people, so we condensed it into one. And it is an 11 by 17 piece of paper folded in half, so it is page size, but there's 4 different sides to that. All 3 locations have like a single page. Sometimes it's a page and a half. It really depends. But I'll also send our summer guide out too, so you see what that looks like, what we include on it, the location, the times, the dates, and usually there's a little blurb about what the program is and the age that it's intended for. So that's something that we can give to people as they come in for library cards, or in the middle of, like we had October's program guide available mid-September. So that we say, hey, the October guide is out, so that they have it in advance. But our social media guy also puts every single event on our Facebook page as an individual one. So that's a good way to get the word out to But yes, I'll be more than happy to send all of those things. And if you like the library, the Abilene Public Library on Facebook, you can see albums of all of our programs that we've done, all of our pictures. Usually are put up there in specific albums or on the day. Instagram, we also started doing videos of programs too. So you can see that. The other important program, this one is a yearly program that we do. It's called LibCon, and we just finished it last week. So there's a couple of pictures in a second that I'm going to show you for that as well. And LibCon is all 3 libraries participating in one giant event, but it happens at our 3 locations. So if you have more questions about that, I'd be happy to answer that too. Because that includes, usually that includes vendors, that includes groups in the community coming in as a part of our collaborative programming, that they're coming in, showing what they do, why they do, and helping kids do it. So we have 2 ways that we do collaborative programs. They come and host programs at the library, or we host programs with them at their location or another spot. So currently we have the NOAA project, which is here. They're coming in to do story time focused on services for the community. And then we have Once Upon a Story Time, which grew out of a collaboration with our Parks and Recreation Department. There was another employee, her name also was Alyssa, interestingly enough. And she was like a birthday princess on the side, and she had her own costumes, and she offered to host a story time at the library in costume. And so that became Once Upon a Story Time. So if you're a tiny library, you only have 2 staff persons, a good way to increase your programming is to leverage your community. What do people like in your community? Do you have, a friend who has costumes? Would they be willing to come into the library to do something along that way? Is there a club happening around your library or in your town that would like to host a program at the library or meet at the library? Like our Pokemon meetup, that happens weekly at South. We have a member of the Pokemon League who wanted to have just general playing tournaments for everybody, but he didn't have a spot to do it. So the library hosts those tournaments here at the library. We also do Read to a Dog, which are therapy dogs that come to the library, and the kids just sit and read. And it is honestly the best program. Plus, dogs in the library, but also, we have never had an issue at this program. The dogs have never been a problem. The kids are all super excited to come and read. If they're not specifically reading to one of these dogs, then they're coloring in the back. It's a really chill, laid back program, which is beautiful, watching all of these kids read to these adorable little dogs. But Abilene is also blessed with several organizations in our city. There's the school, of course, Abilene Independent School District, other city departments, Parks and Rec, the Abilene Zoo. But we also have the Cultural Affairs Council, and they put on the Children's Art and Literacy Festival every year, which the library is a part of as well. The National Center for Children's Illustrated Literature, the NICL, is located in Abilene. And if you guys have the opportunity to come and see that space, it is beautiful. It's children's book illustrators, right? The actual art that goes into the creation of these books. Their original art from the illustrators, the artists, up on the walls for you to see and to go through the process of how they're actually creating these books, how it gets published is fascinating. The library also participates in community events. So that's another good way to get your library out there in your community, is to go to these community events, have a booth, have a table, or even just you with an apron with library information that you can pull out and hand to them. Okay, so here's some pictures. There's a lot, and there's a lot to look at, but these are all programs that we have had at the library. We'll just start up here in the top corner. We just did LibCon, so that's me dressed as Princess Peach with the mushrooms. We did life-size Mario Kart, right? We've got kids scooting around in our activity space on scooters, and that's Randall there in the middle here with a couple of pillows that they're turtle shell pillows. tossing in front of the kids as they've been hit, like regular Mario Kart. In the middle on the top, that is actually a guest presenter. That's the Tooth Fairy's sister. She came from one of our dental offices here in Abilene to do a presentation about why oral health care is so important for our kiddos. She's got the yellow handkerchief on this kid's head, and she's fixing to brush it away with her giant toothbrush. These are very fun, and they get something out of it every time. And also, we're impressing upon the children that, you know, your teeth are important. Moving on, we've got, this is us at a puppet show. That's me and our puppeteers at the library on a puppet stage that we built. That's just PVC pipe and bed sheets, actually, to create our puppet stage. So it breaks down, it's movable, and it's changeable in size. It can be however tall we need it to be, however short we need it to be, to fit however many puppeteers we need it to. And we use it a lot. As this summer, we did the puppet show at all 3 of our locations. Usually it's just at 1, but that's, you know, have puppet stage, we'll travel. And we've got several other program pictures here. This one looks like candy. That is what that is. Everything's candy, but it looks like grilling. That was a teen program that we did. They came and decorated food to look like other food. We've hosted events. This is a homeschool event that we did, a homeschool tea. Everyone came dressed in costume. As we move along, this one too was a tween event. She's trying to get all of that toilet paper off of the roll in a minute. We've got coloring club, and I said bubbles before. The kids love bubbles, and this is just a $5 bubble machine that we got on clearance at, I'm pretty sure it was Dollar General maybe. But bubble guns work too, or even blowing bubbles. But if you're going to blow bubbles, don't let the kids blow bubbles. The adult needs to blow the bubbles. Otherwise, you'll end up with bubbles everywhere spilled. Further down here at the bottom, we had the Abilene Zoo come out, right? She's holding a snake that the kids get an animal encounter with. If you don't have the zoo close to you, you might have a petting zoo, right? Or a farm that would be willing to bring in, you know, baby animals for kiddos to see. The one next to it, this is a read to a dog. That's a therapy dog, right? She's so excited. You can't see it in the picture, but her tail was wagging the whole time. And this is other Alyssa here. She's dressed as Ariel at one of our events, Once Upon a Story Time. And this was Stuffy Sleepover, right? So this one was a very easy program to do. We just had children come, bring their favorite stuffed animal. They had a story time, and they decorated the white pillowcases that these little animals are sitting on. And then they left everything. And then my staff did the rest of the things. We've got a whole album on Facebook, and it's adorable. Everything that these stuffed animals did at the library overnight when they slept here at the library. And then the kids came to pick them up the next day. Okay, so just some more pictures, other events that we've done at the library, ways to make it out. I'm sure you can see I am dressed up a lot. I like big decorations for things. That is a 7-foot tall dinosaur. That's our Christmas decorations out of cardboard, the top corner. The bottom corner was summer last year, Oceans of Possibilities, where I had a whole aquarium scene, underwater scene happening there. The one in the middle with the giant parachute, that's an event we did outside. So there's a lot. Your library doesn't have to be just inside your building, right? You're a part of your community. So to do programs in your community helps that way. All right, so I'm going to talk about Pirate School real fast. At our old location, it was 5,000 square feet. Again, when we moved to our new location, I had 20,000 square feet to deal with. But I hosted this program, Pirate School, just before we moved to our new location. So there were 4 programs in total. Each program built on the previous one. So by the end of the programs, they had a complete costume that they made. And then the final program was a treasure hunt, which encompassed our entire library. And you'll see what I mean. So even if your library is very small, you can still host large programs. You're just going to take over the whole space. All right, so those top 3 pictures are the crafts that they did after the programs, right? They're part of their costuming. And then see, we had a lot of people. My children's area was 18 feet by 20 feet. And there they are, all enjoying the whole space, right? Kids are small. And then this was everyone I used to pull off this program. There's only 4 staff members in this picture. The rest are volunteers. So make sure you're asking people. A lot of people would love to help. This is Miss Mona here in the middle. She was one of our volunteer grandparents. She would come and read stories, and she was a part of the foster grandparent program here in Abilene for a minute as well. That also finds ways to connect younger kids to older adults in a positive way. And this was the final one, the treasure hunt, right? So they came into the library, and that's where it started. They walked the plank. They went through my shelves, under my tables, around the corner. I was hanging through things all the way to the back where they had tattoos, because pirates have tattoos, and then they got their treasure box. So immersive programs are a really good way to do it too, for your dynamic programming, something they haven't seen before. All right, so we're gonna watch a video real fast, hopefully. And the sound should be off. This one is our Art in the Park series that we did over the summer. So again, this is messy STEAM that we're doing outside, right? We're tie-dyeing outside. And they did it all. This is they're playing with oobleck, which is my very favorite STEAM. And it's just cornstarch and water that they mix together. All right, there's some more of the tie-dye. And that's oobleck. Look, see? Not that I haven't done oobleck inside the library, because once it dries, it just turns back into cornstarch. But it's more fun outside. And this was at a park, which is just kind of across the highway from the library. So just in a green space outside, very popular. All right, I'm gonna go through a couple things. We've only got a few more minutes left here. This is Once Upon a Story Time. So you can see what this program looks like. And she's just there. She's singing, she's dancing. All right, you may have someone at school in the art department or in the theater department at your high school that would be interested to do it too, if you're a specific rural library. And then she poses for pictures. And there we are after. So, okay. So real fast, we're going to talk about adding STEAM to programming, which is one of the really added activities that I like to do at the library. And we do have specific STEAM programs, but I also build it into some of our other programs, either by crafting or we're building something. So it can be a separate program or an added element to an existing program. The activity depends on your program, of course. You know, I'm not going to make 3-year-olds paint this beautiful mural, although I might, or have to build something that's going to end up being 8 feet tall. So it depends on the length, your participant age, the supplies you have available, and your available staff. Like for my South STEAM program, it is overseen by either a staff person or a volunteer because it's out all day long. They may need assistance, but I have instructions on the tables or in the packets as they go home. Ooh, sorry, my phone thought I was asking questions. So that is how we do it here. Usually it's all together. I've got one person overseeing it, one person who is helping the kids do it, because it's sort of a come and go, like it's drop in all throughout the day. At Mockingbird, they do a specific program on a specific day at a specific time, and theirs needs like 2 people at least to help, because at the beginning of the program, you get a lot of participants all at once. So you need a little bit of help that way. And then we also have kits that we made that are STEAM specific. That's Pinworthy STEAM to Go. If you haven't looked at that, that's an excellent way to do it. Even if you can't purchase the actual items in the STEAM kit, if you look and see the types of things that create it, you could make your own based on what you have, or at least parts of it, individual pieces, if you wanted to go that way. We also have literacy kits, which are books with an available literacy activity, which comes out together that the kids can check out. So as you're thinking about your program, is there a part of your program that could have a STEAM activity that goes along. We have a story time STEAM program that is going to be coming up next year, where we're going to take a fairy tale and then add a STEAM element to it. Our first one is going to be the Three Little Pigs. So we'll read the Three Little Pigs, probably a couple of different versions, and then the STEAM activities after that go with the Three Little Pigs, because that is a really easy one to start with, because they build with straw and sticks and bricks. And I have straws, like drinking straws. That's what I plan to use. Sticks, I was going to go pick up sticks, but we'll probably just use pencils or my rhythm sticks. And then with bricks, I've got Legos. So I have all the things already. And more specifically, what we'll be asking the kids to do is try to build the houses with the available materials. What works, what doesn't, how they could change it, how does it go along with the story. So that is a really easy way to get started if you would like to add STEAM in a specific program with a literature element. And I'll include all of that stuff too with the things you get. Now, these are my favorite STEAM activities and ones that we do many a time. And I will have a page that goes out with the links to where I found each of these, the instructions and things, so that you can see those and in use. There's catapults, which just needs craft sticks and rubber bands. We got pool noodle shooters, which I love pool noodles, so I have a lot of them. Making boats and rafts, usually it's either foil or straws and tape, and then see if they float. Add pennies to see if it sinks. Volcanoes, that's just the vinegar and baking soda. Slime, that's oobleck is my favorite slime, and that's just cornstarch and water. We have done all of these STEAM activities at the library many, many times, and it's a hit every single time. Even if they've done it before, even if they've done it in class, they're still excited to do it somewhere else at the library. And I give instructions to the parents so they could even possibly do it at home if they wanted to. We do some other things for littles. We have sensory bins, which usually I use the water beads, not sand, because the water beads go back once they're dry, and you just add water again to reuse them later. Busy bags are just one activity in a little pouch that they can do inside the library. Usually it's counting, matching, colors, that kind of thing, puzzles, and those are STEAM activities for littles to do so that they're still included. And then again, our kids, for them to check out to take home. And that's basically kind of it. I know I threw a lot at you and I talked about a lot. So we've got lots of resources here. And again, I'll include all of that, but mainly when you're doing dynamic programming, right? Think about taking your program, to the next level. What would make a person who's attending go, oh my goodness, that's where it starts. And then how that looks like is dependent upon the program that you're planning. So do you guys have any questions or comments? This is me. You're always welcome to call me or email me, and I'll be more than happy to send all of the things. There'll also be a link. It's right there, the survey link, which she's going to send you as well. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see my face, maybe.
Alyssa, we do have a question. Would you be able to talk a little bit more on how to get your staff to think further in advance as far as planning goes?
Well, I started with a planning meeting in a kind of evaluating our entire program schedules, what we're doing, why we're doing it. Does this day work best for this? Do we have enough staff that we could have 2 people at this program at a time? And really asking their opinion, like the programs that they enjoy doing, and why they enjoy it. And then, hey, so we like this one, great. What if we do, plan 3 programs? And then we'll start with that. And then at the end of those 3 months, if it's a monthly or a weekly program, evaluating, did it work or not? And then while the days are happening, I would be talking to my staff about what the next one looks like. Do you have everything you need? All of the stuff. And because they didn't have to answer me, oh no, I still have to do that, because it's been done, that's how my staff started buying into the, oh, here's my next 3 months planning. Or if you know there's a large event coming, like the holidays are coming up, we're going to be doing some specific holiday programming. It's a lot easier to purchase that stuff now than it will be during the holiday season to make sure we're getting things in time. Just open communication, making sure that they know it's not just because you want it in 3 months, it's to help them present the best program possible. So no one feels like it's last minute, so that we have everything possible that we need for the program. That's kind of where I started with that. And now a lot of my staff, they've been here for a minute. So it's an expectation that I give to them, but also something that they're used to doing and something that they realize has worked well. So we'll continue to do. So it might be a little bit hard to start, but I would suggest a meeting and saying, hey, we want these planned. That way it's less stressful on staff to present.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about any of the things? And again, you guys can always contact me with questions later. That's fine too.
I also put the post-survey form in there as well, but it's also going to go out in the email tomorrow to just keep an eye out for that email. It should come around 11 o'clock tomorrow. I think that's when I scheduled it.
Excellent. And a lot of the things that I'll be sending to the pirate school pictures, I have all of that listed as what I did, supplies I used, how I ran it, all of that things on a file, which will go out. I've done that for several different connected programming. So those will all go to the program examples. So hopefully there's something you guys can take immediately from this and either put into practice or think about adjusting your own programming too. Yeah. And thank you guys all for coming. I appreciate it. Hopefully I wasn't too all over the place.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Alyssa. And thank you everyone for attending. Just check out our plan homepage too if you're interested. We have a whole community library training coming up on Tuesday, I believe. And that one's at 11 to 12. So yeah, go ahead and sign up. It's right on our homepage is where all this is announced. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. And you should get all of the things tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah, it should be tomorrow if I did things right.
Hopefully. Yeah. I'll make sure to get all the stuff to Sarah too. So
great. Thank you, Alyssa.
You're welcome.